The case that I decided to talk about is titled "Man Confessing to Murdering Girlfriend and Impersonating Her on Social Media." It was posted by HuffPost and written by David Moy. So the gist of the article is that a man named John Chapman allegedly admitted to taking Jamie Fedane rather, Fedin, however you want to pronounce it, I guess, from her home in Bethel Park and uh, and killing her, according to the court and criminal complaints and so on and so forth. So he came forth and confessed these murders himself and said that he had accidentally killed her by duct taping her mouth and covering her nose by accident. And in this process, she suffocated to death. And it was as part of a bondage themed photo shoot of some sort. So after he claims that after he committed, or after her death, he committed this crime. He dumped her body in the desert, and and then from there began impersonating her on major social media platforms, and texting her family on her phone, pretending to be her in pretty much every feasible way aside from the outside world. The article states that she was on disability and she did not work, so there was no direct friends or anything that were aware, that could have been aware. The only people that were skeptical were her family members. Stated that she, as in he, had been acting weird over messages and it just generally didn't sound like her. So those are the only people that were kind of skeptical and knew or were skeptical about what was happening to her. So after he confessed the crimes, he gave up her location and where he had hidden the body, which was, like I said, in the desert. So when they went out to find the body, she was there where he had said, and her body had decayed past a reasonable point of being able to do DNA testing or anything of that sort. She was left in the desert, so it's obviously hot, and her body decayed at a very quick pace. This is where the issue in the case was presented. It was difficult for the investigators and the coroners to know if his story was true, because of the lack of DNA evidence. So, whether or not his confession was true, what the story he said was true, so on and so forth. Chapman's first court appearance was on the 21st of November, so this is a very fresh case, and it was just a preliminary hearing. So there were still very, very early in this process here, but the criminological theories that I think relate to this case are excuse me, are the rational choice theory, for one. I think this is the biggest player in this case. I think it relates because when you think about the actions he took, if the murder or accidental death of his wife, and then his choice to dump her body in the desert, and then choice to confess, all seems very odd. It seems like he was making these rational choices in his own head. If he did, I say if in all of these scenarios because it's still very early and we don't have a lot of information on information generally. If he really did accidentally cause the death of his wife, he made the rational choice in his own head to dump her body and pretend to be her, which is like, I don't know, and maybe I think it implements or correlates with rational choice because he thought in his own head maybe that it was his only way of not being caught, and he was trying to keep himself safe in some way, keep himself out of prison, because in his own head he knew the what it looked like to the outside world, how he would be arrested and so on and so forth, and how he eventually goes on to to confess. So I think that just plays a big role in this case in general. And then the second the second theory that I wanted to bring up was strain theory in general. I think that if the story he's telling is true, it's obviously extremely stressful for him, generally speaking, and else involved. But I think strain theory could explain some of the actions he took. If he actually did accidentally murder his wife, and in a fit of stress and anxiety and not knowing what to do, dumps her body tends to be here on social media. These are all extreme actions, obviously, but you know, the strain of the situation could have easily played into why he did those things and stuff. Not excusing his actions by any means, but more so trying to explain them. So I think those are the main two players, and I think anything else, any other theories are really kind of um, hard to stick to this case because it's so early on and we know so little so far. But nonetheless, I think this is very interesting, and I think those theories try to do a good job of encapsulating what his thought process might have been, as well as like what's going on within the case. So that's my story.